Hi guys, how's it going? How's it hanging? All is good. Awesome. Today we're coming at you again with a deck profile of Infernoids. You're probably wondering to yourself, but Darkest JMR, why are you playing this deck? Shut up! Play what I want. Doesn't matter. Kiko, DD Crow, Iron Imperial Wall, Black Horn of Heaven, Artifact Lancia, Fantasy's Fiend, Majesty's Fiend, doesn't matter. We kill them all. Not really. You still get shreked. But it's all about having fun. So right now I'm here with you with a deck profile today, and we're gonna have some fun with this. So let's get this started. We play 3 copies of Infernoid Antara. The level 2 monster can be special summoned by banishing 1 from your hand or 1 from your graveyard, and once per turn target a monster on the field, a face-up card on the field, face-up monster on the field, and returning to hand, which is pretty okay. And then during your opponent's turn, you can tribute a monster you control and banish that card from the graveyard, or just target a card in your opponent's graveyard and banish that, which is pretty smexy. So we play 3 copies of that because it's really good. And then of the overhype train, we play 3 copies of Hammer Deck because it's a 1600 beta with 0 defense, and once you can banish out your hand or out your graveyard to summon it, and it's only one that you need to require for that summon condition to resolve, and then you can target the monster on the side of the field and any side of the field and destroy that monster, which is pretty sexy. And then its additional effect is during your opponent's turn, you can tribute a monster you control and banish a card out your opponent's graveyard. Patria, same summon conditions as the babies, same summon conditions all the small little ones have, is by banish 1 out your hand or 1 out your graveyard to summon him. He can only be, all the babies can only be summoned out of your hand, which is one thing you need to keep in consideration of. And he's a decent 1800 beater, which is pretty good. So he gets over a lot of annoying little 1700ers like Denkosek or anything, but this deck doesn't really have much problem against it. It gets over nearly all of the Talonite monsters that are run in that deck, except for Uniclai, I guess. And it gets over nearly all of the Shadow normal monsters, normal set monsters, except for Dragon, which is kind of annoying. But it's a MSD on a stick. Once per turn, target a spell and trap your opponent's control or you control, and you can destroy it, and then during your opponent's turn, you can banish a card from their graveyard, which is relatively annoying. And then we play 1 Infernoid Piety, I guess. It's a name, so I more or less play this in there for a name. If it gets over a monster and deals damage to it, deals damage to your opponent, you can then, after damage resolves, you can discard a card from your opponent's hand, which is pretty smexy. It's really okay. We only play 1 copy because it's a name, and it's more or less, it's for fodder, and it's a random situation when you know your opponent has a pretty life card in your hand and you ended up getting over one of their weaker monsters or anything like that. It makes it pretty okay. And then we play 3 copies of Saitamus because it's really, really good. It's technically one of my favorite Infernoids next to Atondel. You'll see that in a second. Summon condition from all the big guys are basically banishing 2 from your hand and 2 from your grave, which is really steep for a summoning cost. So oftentimes it's looked at as a minus rather than anything else. It's a 2600 attack and 0 defense. If it gets over a monster and destroys it by battle, at the end of the battle phase, you can then banish a card from either side of the field. But I don't think you would want to banish from your own. And then during either player's turn, you can tribute a monster from your side of the field to banish a card from their graveyard. Oftentimes you can chain this in like a bottomless activation or a torrential or something like that. Or if your opponent's declaring an attack with a monster that could probably kill it anyway, you probably take the direct damage and you can tribute it and you can banish something that it probably needed for later, which is pretty okay. So then now we have 3 Infernoid Atondel. You can arguably play 2. I like 3 because it's a name, and same summoning conditions as the bigger guys by banishing 2 to summon it, and if it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack again. 2800 attack and 0 defense. Smexy. And it's a level 8. So all of the bigger guys have the same effect as banishing cards out of the graveyard. The big guys, either player's turn, the little guys is during opponent's turn only, and all of the summoning conditions is that you need level 8 or lower effect monsters, total levels and ranked in play. So you can only have like 2 level 2s and a level 4 in play. and you can still summon a next Infernoid next to that, but if it's above any other effect monster, it's too high to summon. It's too high, man. It's too damn high. One blaster because it is really good. Banishing 2 fire type monsters to summon him, dragon or fire type, and 1 copy of the Ananchu. Yeah, I can't really pronounce its name, so I'm sorry to the other people who are grammar Nazis with that. 3 to summon him. He becomes a Runix when when his summon resolves. So if his opponent doesn't do anything about it, boom boom goes to field. And when your opponent activates a card, you contribute the monster, and you can negate the card activation and banish it. Spell out trap, I think. One monster activation, but I'm not sure about the monster part, but I know about the spell and trap for sure. And now, because the cards are pretty hard to summon, you need an engine. A lot of people have been playing a lot with the Lightstorm engine and playing a lot with like Needlebug Nest and traps and stuff rather than playing the Lightstorm engine, but this is the engine that I probably settled on, which I liked a lot. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You can leave that in the comment section below. Let's see. 2 Lightstorm Raiden, mill 2. If you mill a Lightstorm monster, he becomes 1900. And during the end phase, you can mill an X2. So he's 4 per turn, which is really sick. And he's a tuner, so you can tune up with, you can sync up with any of the monsters. And he's a level 4, so you can also exceed, which is also pretty cool. And then we play 2 copies of Lila. Sexy Lila. She is your MST. There's people who play 1, and I can consider bumping her down to 1 at any given point in time. I don't disagree with that choice, but I just hate spells and traps because no matter where I'm around, where I live, everybody kind of loves running back row. You cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh decks. So to combat all of that, I run a second Lila. Let's see, Wolf, the Lightstorm Beast, 2100, cannot be normal summoned. Why do you run this in your deck? You mill a lot, and there's oftentimes you're kind of left defenseless if you don't resolve anything. So like say for example, you hit with reasoning like a blaster or something, but then you mill a wolf next to it, which is pretty good. Becomes like a two more than 2k attack power creatures in play, which is just really good for you. Lumina. Oftentimes you can discard wolf to this, which actually makes this card pretty okay. I play 3 Luminas. It's a little greedy of me having a 1000 attack point monster in face up attack position. Arguably you can say, why not play Honest? Because it's a bad card. Now to the spells and traps. This was about 26 monsters, I guess. I think I run. Spells and traps, just as much. Decent amount. Let's see. To our mill engine, if you don't get any Lightstorm monsters, if none of that goes off, you have Reasoning and Monster Gate. Reasoning is just a really good card in general. Monster Gate as well. Reasoning is your opponent declares a level, and if he declares it right, the monster goes to the graveyard after the card resolution, if it can be summoned or set, and if he calls it wrong, it actually gets summoned on your side of the field. But that's not the point of you playing the card, you play it because you want to mill. And Monster Gate is that you tribute a card, and then you get to mill, which is pretty smexy. You tribute a monster card that you control, and then you get to mill until you get a monster that can be set or summoned. 2 solar recharge, because I play maybe 3 more or 4 more Lightstorm monsters than required in the deck, and I only play it because there's oftentimes you kind of sit with your Lightstorm monsters in your hand and you kind of just don't want to summon them because then it's just a waste. You'd rather have some good card advantage out of it rather than being able to do it. Let's see. And as oftentimes you mill a lot of your Lightstorm monsters anyway to make any good use of them, and I like the Lumina in the deck because then you can always get Raiden or you can get Wolf together or something that's pretty annoying. Double copy of MSD, you can arguably say that you could probably play Voids here as well, but again, it's all up to personal taste, and I love MSD that gets rid of stuff like Imperial Iron Wall and Macrocosmos and stuff like that, which kind of hurt the deck a lot. One Regeki, it helps you OTK potential and clears the board if you have something like a Dweller laying around on your side of the field. So I mean, if you're against a graveyard oriented deck, you can make a Dweller and then Regeki as well, which is good. Charger Light Brigade, this searches for your Lightstorm monster that you'll probably need during the game. You can always discard with Lumina if you don't have any Lightstorm targets anymore, which actually makes it pretty okay. Miracle Dig. Now, it doesn't do the same thing as Return from a Different Dimension, because Return is... Oh, Burial from a Different Dimension, sorry. Burial allows you to do that in either player's turn. This is only during your turn, which your opponent can probably respond to by doing something more nasty to you, which can be making you very, very sad. Very sad panda. In any case, I play 3 traps alone. This is my 3 traps, and this is all I play. I play 1 Needlebug's Nest because I play tested 2. It didn't work that much because there's oftentimes when I did have the 1 Needlebug's Nest, it would build the other one and like 3 to 4 more other traps as well. And then there's oftentimes, I like breakthrough skills because if you mill it, you can still use it in your opponent's like window or something, which keeping you from special summoning multiple and killing them for that turn. Because oftentimes when you kind of do 2 Attandals and a Blaster, it's game. It's kind of game. It's nothing, unless they play like Gorse or something, then they're dead. On to the extra deck. A few of these are like tech choices or whatever. I think this my extra deck is like 15 cards or 14 cards or something. No, 14 cards or 13 cards. This one is I think my 14th, but I only play this because I'm testing how good this one is. It's kind of meh at the moment. I do not have Dracossack or Big Eye, so I will probably play that and the Dracossack or Big Eye instead of this. So this is kind of like on the fence, so you can make what you want of it. Let's see, Star Eater, staple, really good card. You can make this easily with Blaster and stuff, and Saitamas, it's just really good. Crimson Blader, I love this card so much against the mirror match, against Shadows and stuff like that. It's just really good against them. And hopefully this might get good against Necros as well. If they don't open out a Genlock on you, and if they probably don't have a Vicarious in hand, this just wrecks face. Just punch Trishla in the face, and then they can't special summon the next one next turn, which is just really sick. Let's see, Cyhemoth. I do not play this card for the OTK. Same reason as Shadows don't play Goyo as well. I do not like Goyo that much. Right now in the meta, there's too much too much floaters. You destroy something by battle, something always gets done to you the next following turn, or done to you Goyo, which is just really retarded. And this plays around Shadow Fusion, which I kind of like. I'm not too worried with Crimson Blade about Shadow Fusion, because if you kick something on the shadow side of the field, it's dead. They can't Shadow Fusion next turn, and you need to pray to Jeebus that they can at least use like a Castell to get rid of the Crimson Blader, or else they'll just keep on wrecking their face. Any case, I play Michael, which is just really good. He's only going to be summoned with a Lila and a Raiden, but that's not the point. You play him, you banish a card your opponent controls, so basically BLS is for you and you can still attack. It doesn't double attack twice, but it's a really good target. And then phase mills, and if it's destroyed, you can shuffle X number of Lightstorm monsters, and then you gain life equal to the amount you sent. Yazi, I'm still testing this. In Shadows, it was way worse because your special summons are really limited to just the 1 normal summon into Felice into making this, which wasn't as good. Black Rose Dragon, relatively easy to make. Really, really, really easy. There's oftentimes your opponent just kind of does not see this coming. It's just really good. Castell, detach 2 materials, send a face-up card in the field back to the deck. Back to your opponent's, back to the deck. It doesn't even have to be your opponent, it could also be you. So I mean, if you have like a dead dweller, you probably want to reuse it again, you can just send it back to the deck anyway. It's really good. Abyss Dweller, just really good for the matchup. Am I right about Castell's effect, by the way? Yeah, just target a monster in the field. Okay. Target a monster or target a card. Yeah, target another face-up card, so you can target Dweller. And then with Dweller, it's really good if you have something like a Regeki or anything like that, and you can just Regeki Dweller in response. It's just really good. And any deck that I play rank 4s in, I usually play a Crazy Box, which is just really good. It just becomes a 3k beat stick. The effect is not that important, it's just that the boy is just really nuts. He's really crazy. He is really crazy. Realm 3 Berserk, a lot of rank 4 decks uses as well. Well, the ones that I play in any case. You can, more than once in a turn, you can banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. You already do that when you Infernoise, why not do that for your Exceeds as well? Because you can. because you're a jerk like that. In any case, Gaga Cowboy for game, or you can kick over a pretty annoying monster that's bigger than a lot of your others. Effect is detach one material if it's in defense, shoot 800, or if it's an attack, turn it 25 and the monster loses 500 when it attacks. When Cowboy attacks. And then Excite a Knight, because you want to clear the board. If your opponent has more cards than you, detach a material once per chain. So you don't have to do it on a summon because that's a chain already. You can just activate the effect and your opponent chains on something. Then you can chain again. Which is really swick. And then, oh yeah, about the matchups. Stellar Knights, Shadows are pretty... Stellar Knights, if they go first and they get their engine running, they have their floodgate cards and stuff like that, it's really hard to deal with. But with Shadows, you don't run over Shadows exactly. You don't run over the deck because they still have a lot of plays and outs that it can make against you. But it's not as hard as you would think initially. In any case, I have played I think 7 games against them. I won, I think I won 5. I lost 2 due to them OTKing me, but I mean, if they don't have OTK following turn and you have pretty poor mills and the deck is really just dependent, the deck is highly dependent on all your mills that you get. And if your opponent has good ways of stopping you, then it just hurts you a lot. Because the best way to play against this deck is kind of letting them spend all their resources answering stuff that you're doing, and then you kill them after, because then they just have no more ways to being able to summon unless they have a burial or a miracle dig, or you just kill them before they kill you, because they're not going to interact with your spells and traps unless they're annoying. So like if they're floodgates, then okay. So on to the side deck. I play 3 copies of Flying Sea. You can say 2 or whatever, or none at all. That's all up to you. The side deck is basically experimentation of what cards that I could probably consider running or not. So don't be mad. Oh no. Diffusion. It is really good against Darklaw. It is just relatively insane. It's not against Shadows. It's kind of okay, I guess. I don't have my Shadow monster anymore. Boo. Just make an next one next turn. But against Darklaw is just really crippling because they invest so much cards into making Shadow Mist. It's a 2-card combo technically, but it's still a lot of resources you need to make with it. Darkhold, Double Darkhold, Book of Moon are for the fiends. They work really well against them. Destroy all monsters or turn a monster face down. It's just really swag. Against Clifford's, you can probably run System Down. I like System Down a lot more than stuff like Spell Shattering Arrow or Fairy Winds or any of that type of stuff. But Spell Shattering Arrow and Fairy Winds are pretty okay against certain Floodgate cards that are really annoying to deal with. Raikou, it's good against Floodgates. It's good against the Fiends. If he doesn't have Majesty's Fiend, this is really good against it. Because this is good. It's really good. It's good. Mind Crush, this is a good for the moment. And hopefully for later in the meta. When Necros becomes a thing. Necklaw becomes a thing where they'll be just adding 10 to 20 cards. And you need to find ways to respond to that. And if Mind Crush doesn't work for you, there's always Shared Right as well, which is also a pretty okay alternative, or Mistake. But it would be a mistake if you didn't side it. But make sure you don't side cards. The best tip that I can probably give to you guys is try to side cards that help you play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Rather than trying to keep your opponent from playing the game itself. Because oftentimes you mess up your own deck strategy or your deck win condition, or trying to kill your opponent, put his life points to 0, rather than saying that, hey, you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, but hey, I opened up with 3 of my side deck cards that don't do anything or attribute anything to my deck. So that's something you need to watch out for. And then there's like here Spell Shattering Arrow and stuff, but Spell Shattering Arrow I'd probably play Fairy Winds instead. I cannot find my Fairy Winds where I put them, doesn't matter, but I do have them somewhere. But just think of these as Fairy Winds, I guess. And Shared Rides or Shared Rides, what? I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me rant in your ears for the past nearly 20 minutes now. Or more than 20 minutes, more or less. I hope you guys enjoy the deck tech. I enjoyed doing it myself. Your matchups are pretty highly dependent on what you mill and what you get. So that's something you need to take in consideration with. The deck is resource light, so there's oftentimes you need to answer a lot of things on board first before you can play your game. So summoning stuff like Harmedic, Atondo, Atira is probably more or less your tempo plays first before you can send out your big guys to deal with anything. So I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So be awesome and stay awesome and have a wonderful Thursday afternoon, y'all. It's a pretty fun deck. I like it a lot. Bye.